Okay, so two things. If you have reviewed the video at all, like, oh, I wanted to relive that class for some reason, the tracking on this is just crazy. Especially when I sit down, it's like, where'd he go? He's a ghost, and I'm sure it's very distracting. So I've actually made it fixed so it won't move anymore. But I walk off screen now is the trade-off there. But that's okay. It's on the board here, and it already captures the screen, which is being projected up on the board on the projector screens, the monitor screen, which is being projected on the projector screens. The other thing I wanted to call attention to before we go into Chapter 5 Advanced ABC is that you now have available to you here. Let me put in student view. You now have available to you next week's quiz. I got that sorted out. If you open that up, it no longer says this will open on February 1st, which is tomorrow. So a day early. You know, I deliver really, do a good job. That said, they were all four of them, all Chapter 4 quizzes were supposed to open on February 1st, but I pushed back the other ones. This one's a day early, but the other ones now, if you click on Part 2, for example, it's now on February 3rd. I think I can make that, and then the other two are scheduled to become available on February 10th. Okay, so that's the timeline. We're making good progress, and that's coming along. These are, I think the changes that I've made, the improvements that I've attempted to make are indeed improvements and help the overall quiz work better and hammer home the important takeaways. All right, let's talk about Advanced ABC here, and we'll go to the textbook. I talked on last Thursday. I talked a little bit about time-driven activity-based costing. So that's the first of the two Advanced ABC topics. That's what I'm calling Advanced ABC, which in the book fall under 5.5, Simplifying ABC. So the Advanced ABC is to simplify it. I don't know if that seems like a contradiction in terms, but I don't know if I really can pontificate on that too much. But that is what I've split up the subtopics within activity-based costing here. So the three steps in TDABC, time-driven activity-based costing, are to first calculate a capacity cost rate because you have some constrained expert person's time, or machine, it could be as well, some constrained time unit that is providing value of your service or of your product, potentially, mostly service though. Usually this is used for service firms. And you calculate the capacity cost rate by taking all your overhead costs. Okay, that's a key point that will get you some questions right or not. And only overhead costs in the numerator, and then the capacity, which is something like nurse hours, etc., in the denominator. And then the result of that is the CCR, the capacity cost rate. So then we take that. I have to give you a number. I say, oh, and by the way, this activity over here, the finishing activity, the setup activity, the marketing activity, whatever it is, it consumes 1.25 hours of expert time. And you have a dollar amount in terms of dollar per expert time, per constrained time. And now you can multiply that by the 1.25 hours that activity consumes of the constrained time, and that gives you, the result of that is your activity rate. So you don't end up doing 2 ever. I give you the result of 2. 2 is the study that's done to make TDABC work by the same people who would come out if you were doing full-fledged ABC and builds you a percentage weight table to create the activity cost pools. I give you that information just like I have to give you the percentage weight tables when you're doing first stage allocation last week. There's some questions that have you just figure out the capacity cost rate. Don't miss it. If the question stem asks for this, don't go all the way down to some activity rate. Just stop right there. And then there might not be enough information to do it, so don't get confused. It might just be asking for this. And there are some questions that have you do the whole thing, or some that just hone in on the activity rate. I give you a CCR, and then I say, here's how much these different activities consume of the constrained resource, so the constrained expert time. and therefore give me an activity rate. All right, so that's TDABC. Let's go. We went over an example last Thursday, and I want to breeze over that and get into the next kind, and then we'll just go into the quiz and just hit the questions as they come. Okay? I think it's a good chance. No, so hold on. There's not a lot of material, but I have found that it needs a whole week to digest, a separate quiz to digest. I think it's a layer on of already ABC, which has a number of moving pieces, a layer on of additional thoughts and ideas that you have to parse through when you do the word problems. So it's worthwhile having on its own. That said, because it's only 2 topics that we're doing, 2 types of problems, we might full well just start on chapter 6 next on Thursday, or have a lot of Thursday be getting ahead on chapter 6 and the idea behind it. So let's talk about the second kind. It's called approximated activity-based costing, and I've seen this in some of the textbooks that I've looked at in reference. When I created my own, I've referenced a few and said what topics do they cover and what do they do. I've seen it in some and not in others. So if you have a textbook that you've held on to because you just love cost accounting or managerial accounting or whatever, you might not see it in there. But I thought it was really interesting and an interesting way to simplify the ABC process, because the ABC process has to do with tracking a lot of activity drivers or potentially a lot of them, and that's not costless to do. So one way you could simplify and cheapen activity-based costing is to say, well, let's approximate the full range of drivers by taking the most important drivers and just tracking them. So what we're going to do is we're going to say there are certain cost pools. We've done our first stage allocation. We've got all of our cost pools set up. Let's say we have in the problems, I think they go down to like 7 or 8 that there will be. Often the problem for approximate ABC has 7 or 8 cost pools. And 1 or 2 of them are just an order of magnitude larger than the others. That's how problems set up. Or when you're doing it in practice, you just say, these are the high dollar cost pools. These 2, they just seem to drive so much of the overhead that we consume. We want to focus our attention on those. We're going to get the biggest bang for our buck by tracing those activity drivers. And these little satellite ones, the low dollar cost pools, as I say it in bold here, they're not as important. We're not getting much in a decision making, as far as decision making is concerned, from tracing the activity drivers to individual product units, so that we can allocate those cost pools. And so what we're going to do is we're going to we're going to play dinosaur here, and we're going to let the big ones fight over the little stuff. So you got in this example, 2 high dollar cost pools, and they're going to eat up all the low dollar cost pools between them. This is my example. All right, so for example, the question will say something along the lines of, we have cost pool A through G, and we have A and D, and they're like 100,000 each. Let's make it a little different. Make this 150,000, and then we'll have, this is a slightly different example than they give in the book, but it works just fine. The rest of them are this is an example of what they're like, much smaller. So an order of magnitude, or 2 orders of magnitude smaller. So 150,000 versus 15,000 for one of the other ones. This is what would be after D, E. And A is 100,000 versus like 5 or 10,000. So we got the two big dinosaurs here are A and D. They're the big ones, and they're going to eat up all the little ones. They're going to eat them up proportionally. So I don't think conceptually it's hard to understand. D is going to eat up more. It's a bigger dinosaur than A. And they're not going to eat each other, of course. That's mutually assured destruction here. They won't do that. But because D is so big, it'll push out A a little bit and eat more of the little cost pools. So what we're going to do is we're going to sum all of these little ones. So here's 15K, and here's 16.5. And so together we have 31,500 for our low dollar cost pools. Just summing the 4 I gave. So this isn't G, this would be F actually. The 4 low dollar cost pools. And we say, okay, out of that 31,500, A is going to get its portion, just taking that up there, that's there, and there, and there. I'm just feeding it in. A is going to get its 100,000 out of the 250,000 total dollars in the two big dinosaur cost pools of the 31.5. So that's going to be, I think that's 100,000 out of 250,000 is 40%. So it's going to get 40% of the 31.5. Which means that D then is going to get, let's do it a little bit further over, 150K that comes to 60%, if I've done the math in my head right, which I think I have. 60% times the 31.5. And then, so we just split up these little ones between the two big ones. And now we're going to act like that's their new number. So let me go ahead and do that. Do that math real quick. So 31.5 times 0.4. So this is 12,600. And that's how much is going to be added to A. Which means 18,900 is how much will be added to D. And so now we're just going to have two cost pools. A at $112,600, which is that 100,000 it has originally, plus the 12,600 that it got from eating the little ones. And D is going to have 168,900, which is its 150,000 original dollars, plus the 18,900 from eating the little ones, eating a larger share, 60% of the little ones. That's two. Now we have approximated the gist of our bigger picture of ABC, hence the name, and only have to trace two cost drivers instead of the 6 we would have to otherwise. We saved ourselves some money, and we've got most of the bang for the buck. Example here builds off of the example from earlier. And I'm not too worried about going on another example before we hit the quiz. So let's hit the quiz and see what questions come up. And I'm pretty sure those two are it. I mean, theoretically, I guess I could have forgotten something that goes in there, but I'm pretty sure I ask about TD-ABC, and there's an activity-based management question, although I thought I had all those in the last week's. Okay, so I'm remembering how I put this together now. It's been a month and a half since I decided to split this up. So the way I split it up is you repeat some activity-based management ideas. You repeat some first-stage allocation ideas. So building cost pools, which is good. Okay, repeats are repeated topics, means you've already mastered them as of last Friday. And then it's really in these open answer where we start to introduce the two new topics. So let's go through. Let's talk about specifically these two new topics. So here, clearly says TD-ABC. So it's a TD-ABC question. Department within, all right, so this firm uses TD-ABC, and a department within that firm has a capacity cost rate of $74 per technician hour. So that's step one. I already did the CCR. I got the CCR for you. The department has the following technician hours per activity driver: 1.14 technician hours per batch, 1.56 technician hours per machine hour, 1 technician hour per direct labor hour. So these are the numbers we're going to have to multiply by the CCR to get our activity rates. And sure enough, question sim asks, what is the department's activity rate for the activity cost pool that uses machine hours as a driver? I didn't name the activity. It would have a name when they did this. They'd call it the fabrication activity or the repairs activity, or whatever it is. But remember, there's no activity cost pool without a single driver and only one driver that is associated with it. It's simply a nexus of correlations between overhead costs and the individual cost objects or product units that we're talking about. So it has to have one. We might as well just identify it by its driver. Works just as well. So this is really simple multiplication here of 74 times 1.56. We got our CCR. That's the cost per technician hour. The machine hour related activity uses 1.56 technician hours, so we're going to charge it 1.56 of those $74 per hour hours. So let me put that one, since it's I won't put that on the board because it was just a made up example. That was just a made up example I felt fine putting on the board. Let's put this in the Excel file that'll be up on Canvas and try it out. So we have $74 is our CCR. We have 1.56 is our activity rate. No, is technician hours per machine hour. And very simply, this is going to be our activity rate. Do we like TDABC? Yeah, this is a very effective rebrand that Kaplan did. Bob Kaplan, excuse me, Dr. Bob Kaplan. Speaking of big dinosaurs, he would eat me for lunch, of course, so I'll show respect. Oh, that sounded mean. He is a little older than me, but I didn't mean to say dinosaur. Just bigger than me, more important than me, in the world. But yeah, he and his collaborators who developed ABC in the 80s. If you took a very cynical view, they all rebranded just so they could make more consulting dollars. The way they explain it, which I have no reason to doubt their explanation, the way they explain it is they said, look, we talked to a lot of people who are using ABC, and they said, this is too complicated, and specifically, we have they noticed that they tended to have in common, these firms tended to have this simplification that could be done. They tended to hinge on some important person or person's time, and we could simplify the process quite a bit by just funneling all the activities through that person's time. So it's a much simpler process in a lot of ways. All right, so I think that's 115.44. All right, let me give you, yeah. Yep. So if there was a job coming through and it consumed 5 machine hours, you would charge it 115.44 times those 5 machine hours it consumes to give it how much overhead from that activity it's responsible for. Yeah, no problem. Yes, the TDABC helps simplify the first stage allocation. So instead of the percentage weight table, we just have these numbers, just these 3 replace it, along with the CCR. And the result of that gives us our activity rates, which is what we end up with at the end of the percentage weight table and once we've divided it by the expected cost drivers. And so the second stage allocation, I guess is what I'm trying to say, works exactly the same. Like you're saying, it works where you just are charging them charging units based on their consumption of the driver. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So you were already given the cost of using the machines and just all the total overhead. You were already given that in the beginning, so you just divide that by the technical hours. So we're still taking that into account.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's in this 74. All the work that was done to get to this $74. That 74 represents, like you said, the overhead costs in the numerator and the technician hours in the denominator. Exactly. And that's what this next one goes to. We have to develop a CCR for this one. So let me give you a minute or two, a minute and a half to look at this question, see if you can get an answer for this one. I'm going to pull this over here and work on it. All right. Anybody got an answer? Want to share? What do we get? Anything? 58? Okay, how'd you get 58?
I just added all those,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't check if they were all overhead.
Okay. But if they were all overhead, just say that. You added all the numbers and bullet points there together and divided by the 4,081? Okay. Great. Now that last piece of check if they're all overhead is one of the tricks of this particular question here. So what does it say in the paragraph here? What does this suggest to you about the first two bullet points? This highlighted sentence. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to give you to understand here is the medicine costs and nurse salaries they're directly traced to patients. So we don't want to include those in the numerator, but with that modification, your procedure is exactly right. Yes. So that's what I have. Anybody do that? Omit them from the numerator and get some. What do we get? Okay, I got that too. Great. All right. I after I put it in all caps, I realized that's I don't mean to yell at people, but my point is these two numbers right here, they're both traced to patients, which means they're not overhead. They're direct costs. They're on the left-hand side of that last dotted line, so the direct costs, and the other ones are over here in overhead, and we're going to trace those through nursing hours here. So this is going to be our rate right here. We'll just round it 17.41. This is our capacity cost rate. So we don't directly charge anybody 17.41. We charge them at 17.41 times whatever these activities do, times their consumption of those different activity drivers. So it's still got a few steps, but I think each step is simpler. Yeah, Haley. Yes, and then you would add in, yeah. So let's say a patient comes in, they use certain amount of medicine because you've traced that very carefully, of course, because there's a lot of legal and operational reasons why you would be very careful tracing medicine use. And you have the nurse salaries, and you're going to be very careful tracing how much time. It says there they trace nurse time to the patients. So they're tracing that kind of thing. So they charge them the nurse salary time. And then we're going to charge based on how much time they use of whatever activity drivers we have, those different overhead amounts. Yeah. And then we're going to ship it off to the insurance company, and they're going to do this and that. And yeah, just figure out what the cost is first of all. Then all that's on the back end. Don't worry, no questions on how much of this is covered in a copay or whatever. Don't worry. Although I'll say there are a lot of the examples with this, as you've seen, and this question, I think most of the other TD-ABC questions in the pool use healthcare as a big example, and it's very common. One of the big reasons, one of the big constituencies of or potential markets for TD-ABC is healthcare. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and go to approximate ABC. Now, yeah, in the back of my head, I knew that there was a question that had A and D here as the big dinosaurs. Let's just read through it. So a firm wants to use approximated ABC that uses just two activity rates using the two largest activity cost pools. Before approximating the ABC system, they have the following activity cost pools. So they did the full deal ABC. They did the full first stage allocation with, looks like 7 different cost pools and cost drivers. And they want to just use the two biggest. So what is the new activity cost pool for pool A? Clearly, it's one of the biggest. What's the other one? Told you just a second ago. D. Okay. So we're going to need to know that. We got A and we got D. So we can sum those to get the high dollar cost pool, right? Total high dollar cost pools is A plus D. So let's see if I can get copying over here. Copy. C. E. This is cost pool A. D. And we need to know D, even though the question is asking about A. We have to know D to know whether A is eating a large chunk of the little cost pools or a small chunk of the little cost pools. We need to know how much proportionally A is eating of the two big ones. So we can sum these. And now we can just take proportionally and say, A represents 56.9% of the big high dollar cost pools. And that's all we need to know for this question. But overall, if we were actually implementing it, we'd also need to know that, well, D represents the remainder, 43%. 43.1% it would round to. Let's highlight, I wanted this one. We're going to use this one later in this problem. And now we need to sum the low dollar cost pools. So we have 10,217, 8,254 for cost pool C. We have 21,178 for cost pool E, 16,743 for cost pool F, and 5,162 for cost pool G. Let's just make sure I got all those copied over right. All right, looks like I got it. Okay. Put a little border in even. So these are our low dollar cost pools. This is the kill that the two dinosaurs are fighting over, $61,000. And they're just going to go proportional. That's 61,000 times 56.9% with a bunch of trailing numbers here. I'll leave it there. Gives us $35,033.88. And this is portioned to A. I'll use that terminology, sure. We also know it's apportioned to D. We don't need to know that for this question. But we know it because we can easily calculate it. All right, we're going to use that number 2 and this one as well. Because we need to take, A keeps its old dollars. It's just adding on extra dollars. So our new activity cost pool for A is the sum of those. So That's our answer right there. Nice, cool blue. That one looking okay? Oh. Yep. These two right here? Yeah, they're just taking the low dollar cost pool total here and multiplying it by the respective percents. No problem. Okay. All right. Well, questions on TD-ABC or approximated ABC? Not like you have to have these. This is the last chance to ask the question or something. Got till Friday. But if you have now, let's ask. Let's go back up and say, well, let's see if we are so expert in these other things that are in here, because I think there are quite a few more of these kinds of questions, of ABM questions, activity-based management questions. So I misled myself. I think what happened is, did you see that many ABM questions last week in the quiz? There's a handful, maybe one or two. We happened to see them in class, so I wrongly assumed that when I split them up, I put them all in the first week. One or two slipped through, apparently. So that was a mistake on my part. You rose the challenge, and if you saw them, you got them. Or you just attempt the next time, you didn't see them again, whatever. So most of the ABM is on here, but I've already explained a lot of what we're doing. Or at least, no. We've gone through one problem together of ABM. And I think the surefire strategy is that brute force strategy of, well, let's figure out what each of the options is under different regimes, under the different parameters in that option. Or in this case, let's calculate these three customers based on their activity-based costing numbers. So just like it says, let's go to ABM here. This is the type of question you're going to get. All these, I think I have about every single one of them. All right. Here I have customer profitability analysis, which is this type of question. Different activity-based management styles here, 5.4.3. There's questions like that. There are questions like product mix and process improvement. If we could change the mix, which one would be most profitable? And don't worry, the examples here are more complex than the questions in the test bank. Fewer variables used each time. Process improvement analysis. That was the one I remember going over. Which of these process improvements would be most profitable last week? And some pricing decisions. I think I have maybe one or two in the test bank about that, but primarily about the other three different ways of using activity-based costing to manage for profitability. So let's go through this kind of question, profitability analysis, ABM, customer profitability. Because you know what? Sometimes you just got to break up with your customer. So if you got to, it'd be good to figure out which one is best to break up with and which one is worse to break up with. So let's do this together here. We have three customers, right? And each of them earns us a certain amount of revenue. I want to set this up the other way. Certain amount of revenue. They cost us a certain amount of direct costs. And they have consumption of our three drivers, activity drivers. And we have the rates up above as well. We'll come to that in a second. So we have machine hours, batch starts, and orders. So 24,000 is customer. No, I don't want that. Customer one's revenue. 26,000 is customer two's revenue, and 29,000 is customer three's revenue. $10,000 customer one's direct costs, $20,000 customer two's direct costs, and $15,000 customer three's direct costs. Machine hours, we have 50 machine hours consumed by customer one, 20 machine hours consumed by customer two, 15 machine hours consumed by customer three. Batch starts, 5 batch starts customer one, 8 batch starts customer two, 10 batch starts customer three. Orders, 100 orders customer one, 200 orders customer two, 600 orders customer three. And we have our three, so we're going to convert this now into dollars. We have $100 per machine hour, $500 per batch start, and $5 per order. So we can take our machine hours. No. And hold the row constant. No, I wanted the column constant. What's wrong with me? Column constant, yes, because I'm going to go right. Okay, and we should be able to go straight down. Yeah. Okay, so we got all of our, these are in dollars. Let me get, as are these. So now we can say how much each customer is, how much each customer profits us, right? We've got the customer's direct costs that we can trace, and the overhead costs that we're charging them based on our activity-based costing system, which is giving us relatively precise numbers about responsibility for overhead costs. So I'll even put a subtotal in here. Here's a subtotal of overhead costs. I'll put another subtotal. Here's total costs. So overhead costs, subtotal. Total cost, subtotal. I'll push this out a little bit so we can see what these are. And we can just have it simply, how much are they earning us versus how much are they costing us? So yeah, customer two, cut the cord. Not very profitable to us. Customer two is the least profitable customer to the firm. We're making good money off customer one, customer three. Customer two isn't making us bad revenue. A lot of direct costs and a lot of batch starts. Batch starts is the batch starts direct cost combination there is pushing customer two into unprofitability. So maybe we don't break up with customer two. Maybe we talk about why exactly their orders to us require so many batch starts. Maybe they like to order in a Neapolitan style, like Neapolitan ice cream. They're like, I want all these products in very low volumes. And if we talk about them and say, you know what, maybe we can order bigger batches and work together closer so that we're doing like one batch start at a time, but we're giving you a bunch of that product and keeping you stocked. So then we're not constantly having to restart new batches with a bunch of different products that you're ordering. That could bring down those batch starts. Also, the direct costs. I mean, something that they're ordering from us is costing us a lot of those things we can trace directly to, materials or labor. Maybe there's some way we could talk to them about how can we economize this and make it so that we are altering those costs in some way. Yeah, this right here. Yeah, I took the direct cost plus the overhead cost. Last thing I didn't say is we could just tell customer two, hey, you know what? This isn't profitable. We need to charge you more. And maybe they really value our service, our product, and they're like, yeah, you know what? I'm willing to pay $5,000 more for this. It's really good to me. So they can be profitable then. Okay. Here's a product mix one. So I think after this one, we'll have gone through 3 big styles of activity-based management. I think the 3 that predominate in the test bank here. All right. So let's go through something very similar, and I'm going to copy it over, see what I can salvage, what I can use. So we're doing a product mix. What can we use? That's what I'm trying to say. Product 1, product 2. I know at least we're going to have some of the same row names. Let's get rid of that 3rd column. Revenue, 44,000 for product 1, 46,000 for product 2. So let me read through real quick. We use activity-based costing. We have activity rates like this. In fact, they're the same ones as the other one. I think a lot of the problems use the same activity rates, so I can leave these. That's great. We have several products. Firm has several products. 2 of these products have the following data. Here's the 2 products. The firm's product sales mix is 3-to-1, product 1 and product 2 respectively. So 3 product 1s per 1 product 2. So this moves more. We just move a lot more product 1 compared to product 2. And the idea behind this is these are very high dollar products. Like one product 1 gives us $44,000 of revenue. This is some high dollar contract we're doing if we're just on our own. This is some sort of significant solution we are proposing to a company, and they're contracting with us to get that. Product 2 is a different one, and we sell multiple of these as we go. This isn't the total. So this is supposed to represent the total product 2 and the total product 1, because we sell them in 3-to-1. So we sell 3 product 1s to 1 product 2. No, that's not where I want it. Put something about sales mix right here. All right, so yeah, 44,000, 46,000, 10,000, 20,000. Oh man, looks like I was being lazy. Same consumption and everything. All right, 3-to-1. So per bundle, we're earning $78,000 for product 1 and $19,000 for product 2. Let me look at that, make sure I haven't skipped some step or misread something. Okay, so new sales mix 1 would be the same. Okay. What did I do? I held wrong thing. Hold the. Oh, I do want the row. Hold the row constant. All right. So per bundle profits under scenario 1, we keep the same. Sales mix 2 is 4-to-0. Let's get a total out here. Went up. Okay, so we know 2 is at least better than the status quo, 1. So we know 1 is not the answer. Wait. Least profitable. Okay, so we know 2 is not the answer. 2 is more profitable than 1. Which of these remixes would be least profitable to the firm? Okay, new sales mix 3 is 1 and 3. So far, that's a winner. That's the least profitable of our 3 options here, would be to have just 1 product 1 and 3 product 2. It makes sense. Product 1 is earning us higher profit per product, which means that the winner is going to be this last one. Because it says, let's not do product 1 at all. Let's just do product 2, which is our less profitable of the 2. And that earns us the least profit then, which is, for some reason, what we're looking for. Okay, does that make sense how that problem's set up? They're vast simplifications of the analysis and what's done in practice. Like I said, in the book, I try to get more rich and detailed examples. And there's one thing missing even from the examples in the book. But if there's nothing else, I want to put an exclamation point on the idea that, hey, it's not just that ABC gives you more precise numbers and that makes everybody in the accounting office happy because we love numbers and we like them to be precise. But the idea is it comes out in profitability. You're able to make more profitable decisions. And we saw that from since chapter 2. This has been the through line in the course. If we're trying to get somewhere, we have multiple roads to take to get there. We need to figure out what the different outcomes are based on the reality around us. And ABC gives us a clearer picture of the reality of our costs. So that's what its big selling point is. So perhaps this example is we're trying to figure out worst case scenario, which of these mixes, because they're all possible ways that our image or campaign or our brand could push different products. So which one should we avoid the most? And it looks like we're trying to avoid this one the most. Okay, this is process improvement question. We did something very similar to that on Thursday. Let's skip by it a little bit. Another process improvement question. You want to look at this one? I see some nods. Okay, so all right, so Forest Services uses activity-based costing to determine the cost of its services. Okay, one note. Since I was just looking at next week's 6-1 quiz, and I went above and beyond in terms of highlighting the category of the question in that quiz, because I know on the final you're going to have all the questions from all the chapters. So I know it's kind of boilerplate, this first sentence, but it might be an important clue when you're on the final. Oh, hey, let's access chapter 5 information now. I know where I'm at. So just because we can skip over it, and I often do skip over this information, when you're in the testing environment, it's going to be useful when there are multiple quizzes and everything. You get one of the important things of that dead week quiz is the opportunity to see, well, when they're all mixed together, what does this feel like to have all the chapters? All right, we have just two activity cost pools. Activity 1, I calculated the activity rate for you, $30 per machine hour. And activity number 2, which has activity rate of $7 per direct material unit. Okay, so there, it says direct material in there. We can drive overhead off of direct materials and direct labor units and dollars. You can do that. Yes, I have that. No. Yeah, you get the page of notes, and you can use it how you want. If you want that to help you reconstruct a spreadsheet or whatever, a procedure. Hey, Joshua. Yeah, I'm the what you put on there is I'm okay with whatever you put on there. There's a whole lot of material, so I think that buffers against it being misused in some way. Yeah.
Do you have a rule about it being handwritten or created on your own?
No, you can do either one if you want. If you want to get that 2015 eyesight you got, or 15, whatever's really good eyesight, 2015. Yeah. Then you can I think they'll flag it if you have like a loop, out to inspect your paper. But yeah, Kiana. No, they're just the final, and it's online, and you get 2 attempts at it. That's the saving grace, and it's a lot of pressure on the last part of the class. But because of that pressure, and because there's a very stochastic element with the random element with the test banks, how they work, then I give you 2 attempts. Yeah. Good question. So those weeks we won't have, that week, that we don't have any in-person class then. Did I say something the first week about doing an office hours thing that day? Like the day that we're scheduled for finals and be in here? Okay, then that's what I will do that day. But you don't have to come, and you'll be counted as being attending even if you're not there. Okay, good questions. I started it. I went off on a tangent here, but thanks to me, we got some great questions out here. It's good. Pat myself on the back. That's what I love to do. Forest Services currently uses, on average, 500 machine hours and 2,000 direct materials units per year, each year. I bolded year and month here because I'm playing with time. I want you to notice it. The firm also incurs $1,000 in direct costs each month. I say I want you to notice because I usually don't. Usually I put everything on the same period. In this case, it's not, so I'm trying to highlight it to you. The firm has 4 opportunities to improve its processes, listed below in the answer choices. So we have 4 opportunities here. We could reduce machine hours by 20%, reduce activity 1's activity rate by 25%, reduce direct costs by 30%, reduce activity 2's activity rate by 25%. Okay, so we have those 4 different process improvements we could make. None of these process improvements is expected to affect revenue. That's important because its profitability would be its effect on revenue less its effect on costs. And so all of them are neutral as far as revenue. So and we're going to just assume their costs are 0. So how much do they save us? That's the only good thing that we have. Wait, let me say it this way. They're going to have a beneficial effect in cutting costs. And I want you just to assume, for sake of argument, that they don't cost anything to do to get that improvement. All right, that's what I'm. Which of the following is the most profitable process improvement? Read the answer choices carefully. Okay, so let's look at this. ABM, process improvement. This is a little different, or at least this is very word problem-y, and it's gonna, a lot of the points earned for it or not are based on how well we can translate what it says into what do we put on the spreadsheet. So we have 2 activities, $30, activity rate 1, let's say activity 1, $30 per machine hour. And we have activity 2, which is $7 per direct material unit. And they say on average what we use of those 2. 500 machine hours and 2,000 direct materials each year, and $1,000 in direct costs each month. Okay, so I'd rather annualize it than mensualize it. That's the right word, I think. I just made it up anyway. If it's not, I'm making it a word. I want to multiply the 1,000 rather than try and divide 500 and 2,000 by 12. I think that's good. That'll get messy. So we have 500 machine hours per year. We have 2,000 direct materials units per year. And we have 1,000 per month times 12 months in a year of direct costs. So that the direct costs include the cost of those 2,000 direct materials units and any direct labor that we have. It totals $12,000. We'll put $1 in there just so we don't get confused by it. So what we can do is we have now our direct costs, and we can translate these 2 into dollar amounts because we have rates right up here. Machine hours cost us $30 per machine hour. We consume 500 of them per year. So this is activity number 1 cost per year. So that's the rate of per machine hour, dollar per machine hour, times the number of machine hours we use per year. And then we have the rate per direct materials unit times the number of direct materials we use per year to give us activity number 2's cost per year. So we have this amount of costs. Now, I want to keep in mind, I wrote that to myself. Note, high cost is bad. I don't want to maximize that $41,000 just because it's positive. I haven't made them negative costs or whatever. I don't want to get confused and pick like the opposite of the right answer because of that. So, which of these changes makes 41,000 as low as possible? So this is our status quo. And we can do, I want this up here. And I want to brute force it. Excel makes it nice and easy to brute force this. So now this is option 1. This is reduce MH by 20%. So machine hours, how many machine hours we use. So I'm going to do my fancy multiply pasting. If we reduce it by 20%, that means we have 80% of the current machine hours. So I'm going to multiply that 0.8 times the 500, gives us 400 machine hours. So we've reduced cost, looks like, by $3,000 by reducing the machine hours we use per year by 20%. Okay? That's the increase in profits, $3,000 for this first one. Okay? Let's make sure I copy from the status quo for the next one, not from this. I don't want to stack improvements. I'm comparing the improvements. All right. Reduce act number 1, rate by 25%. Okay, so we have 0.75. I copy that, and then I paste it special by multiplying, which just multiplies this number by whatever I copied. So that's, yeah. I did, thank you. Sure did. Good catch, yeah, thank you. So now instead of charging $30 per machine hour, we're charging $22.5 per machine hour, which decreases costs even more than the first one. Now, we could have anticipated this. I'm doing it brute force style in this problem. But you could have said, well, activity 1 costs are determined by multiplying the rate by the consumption. So reducing either one of them will result in the same by a percent. Reducing either one by a percent will result in the same thing. If I reduce the rate by 20% or the machine hours by 20%, I'll get the same $3,000 of savings. If I reduce the rate by 25% or the consumption by 25%, then I will get $31,750. Sorry, $3,750 of savings, which is what we did in the second thing. So you could have seen and say, activity 1's rate is machine hours. Option 1 is machine hours. Clearly 1 can't be it because 2 is going to, if machine hours is the way to go, 2 is going to be more profitable as a process improvement. It hits the same thing, but at 25% instead of 20%. If you find success reasoning through the logic of it, more power to you. You don't have to do brute force like I'm doing here if you find that to be an ineffective use of your test taking time. You do the strategy that works well for you. I know that I run a risk when I don't do it like this of missing something. And even when I do it like this, I sometimes miss things. And so I tend to err on the side of completeness and totality, which costs me in time. It's more time consuming, at least a little bit. But I think the percentages of my accuracy are greater. All right, the third one is reduce direct costs by 30%. Now that's the highest percent we have here. And maybe that means it's the best reduction. So our direct costs, here they are. So if we reduce it by 30%, that means they're 70% of what they are right now. So they become $8,400 instead of their original $12,000, which saves us makes our costs $37,400, which actually doesn't equal the same amount here as our reduction of machine hours, the rate by 25%. So it's not number 3. Number 3 does not save us as much money, even though it's the highest percent on the options, among the options, doesn't save us as much. Okay, last one, reduce. What is this? Activity. Perfect. Yeah. Reduce activity rate 2 by 25%. So now I get to do what I was trying to do earlier, inadvertently and accidentally, wrongly earlier, but now it's right. Take activity root 2 and reduce it by 25%. So 5.25, and that gives us 37.5. Still not as good as, so not as big of a reduction as option number 2 was. So the other alarm bells that go off in my head when I see number 2 is, oh, you know what? Interesting that there are 2 changes that hit on that machine hours activity. He reduced the percent of 1. Is that because if he'd done 25% on both of them, he would have 2 right answers? If you want to get in my head while I'm making the questions, more power to you. Actually, I find it really useful when I'm taking standardized tests or other tests, let's say, to kind of get used to how do they usually make the questions? What are the distractors usually like? How is it usually set up? What is it testing for? So I think that's useful as you go forward. If you take CPA exam or other standardized tests like that, one of the great advantages of those prep materials is they give you an insight into the mentality of the test makers. Like not like what sports do they like or anything like that, but their mentality when they put together the questions. All right, that one, okay. The tried and true is I know I can do it by brute force. If I write out all the information it has, if I don't know immediately how it should fit together, it usually comes to me as I'm writing it out. I'm like, oh, okay, I think these 2 must fit together. That'll give us a number. Okay, I'm probably going to need to sum these numbers. And then I can try out each of the different scenarios for process improvements. All right, what we didn't do is we didn't do this business. Another. This is a comprehensive. This is what this is a comprehensive ABC question. There was another one that was just. Yeah, this is a first stage allocation question. Yeah, I think I've made the error in both ways. Some of the questions I thought were exclusively on last week's quiz have bled over into this quiz, and questions I thought were exclusively on this quiz bled over into last quiz. But don't think a lot of them did. I think more bleed happened. You're going to get some repeats of like this, for example, the Kenobi Dragon, which is a first stage allocation question. You had plenty of those on the last quiz. Let's tackle this one before time closes here. This is a comprehensive question. We do first stage and second stage allocation for this. We have Wise Guys PC, and they budget the following overhead costs. So these are general ledger categories: $1 million of administration expenses, $600,000 of shop supplies. My voice is going for some reason. We use activity-based costing. We have the following percentage table. Great. Let's see if it'll play nice. This is Wise Guys. PC, professional corporation. I wonder what professional service they provide when they deconstruct, disintegrate, and other. All right, so we have I want to take that, copy it down. I know I'm going to do this, so I'm just stop reading for a minute. These dollar amounts. Hold the column constant, multiply up here, and I can take that across the whole table, make sure it's not a percent. These are dollar amounts. So that 1 million gets split up. 25% of it goes to deconstructing, 25% goes to disintegrating, 50% or 500,000 goes to other. It looks like it's working right. That 600,000 gets split up half and half between just deconstructing and disintegrating. Okay, so now I have these 2 cost pools that are Same amount, 550,000. Okay, so that's going to be useful. All right. They budget the following activity drivers for the cost pools. All right, so this 550,000 deconstructing has 10,000 budgeted driver. We don't know the driver's name, but it's some driver. I just named them the driver of that cost pool. Again, there's only one driver per cost pool, and each cost pool has to have a driver. So it's okay to do that. And 16,000 right here for disintegrating. And of course, there's no driver for other. It's a period cost. This 500,000 is just going to be a period cost. Put that right there. All right, so then the rates are going to be the activity cost pool total, that 550,000, divided by the budgeted driver, 55, and 34.38, respectively. All right, so the Sabio job has $200 in direct costs. It consumes 5 units. I'm going to in the cell at $55 per hour of the deconstructing activity. We figured 55 is the activity rate we know it has. It used 5 units based on the problem, right there. So it's earned $275 of deconstructing costs. It's also used 10 units at $34.38 per unit of disintegrating. And so it gets $343.75 for disintegrating. So total cost for the Sabio job here, which is what it's asking, right? Total job cost is the sum of all those. So I want to go with that. Anybody see a problem? Any mistake I'm making here? Looking good? Okay. Well, the benefit of the bleed over is real confidence boost when you come across a problem. You're like, oh yeah, I got this. So good. All right. I think the last thing I want to do is check, see if we got them all right. I think we skipped 2 questions. All right. Unanswered, incorrect. Oh, why is that incorrect? Zero product 1, 4 product 2. Okay, subtotal that. Okay, well, let me look at that question. Maybe that weird wording of which is the least profitable, I wrote it and then I clicked the one that was most profitable as the answer and put that as the correct answer. Let's see that one. Okay, so I'm going to look at that question, at least by later today. But other than that, we got the rest of them right. Unanswered or correct. Great. All right, any last minute questions here? Yeah.
Did you want to go back to the white guys question?
Yeah.
I just didn't quite get how many disagreements.
10. It was 10 in the question. Oh, down. Yeah, if we go down to the actual question, or up, it was a very. Shoot, where was it? It was question 5. I passed right over it. Okay. Yeah. 10 units of disintegrating, and 5 units deconstructing. And another question I saw. Okay. Did I get what you wanted? You able to see what you wanted? Okay. All right. Well, thanks. Thursday plan we'll hit this quiz again, at least for a few minutes, and see if you have any questions on it. And after that, we will begin embarking on process costing.